Welcome everyone to my podcast. Master your emotion and say and find your own truth. So today is number 26. Yes, we postponed this recording since last week, but that's meant to be like everything in our life. So today I've got a beautiful guest, but before I'm going to introduce her and she's going to introduce herself, I would like to give you some information and knowledge and plant the tiny seed inside you about the numerology. I strongly believe in angels because the angels surround us and I'm hearing them every time since actually I can't remember since on the planet Earth, definitely when I was born, I was hearing them every time. But I wasn't aware that was the angel sign. By the way, the angel is over there as well. So number 26, which number is 26? That's mean you need to trust your angel. You need to have a faith. Even if you see number 26, you can see that, you can sense that vibration. You can sense that, how can I say, no appearance. You can sense the, gosh, absence of, no absence. You can sense the angels is surrounding you, is close to you, sorry. And trusting and having the faith even if you've got a running or just when you've got a difficult and challenging situation now at the moment in your life, the angel is always around you, they're helping you. The only thing you need to do, then you ask them for the help. But when you just only divide the number, I don't like the word divide, but here just only tiny, tiny sneak words. Number 2 and 6, which number is what kind of this number mean? The number two is definitely mean the trust, faith, and definitely like a soul of the purpose. And number 6, which one is giving you a balance and nurturing. So when you combine together, definitely trust, keep your life in balance, have a faith, and definitely if you're running the challenging situation in your life, maybe you're watching us, and that's why I just only brought this number and the meaning. Definitely the angel will be with you. Okay, so I'm just only leaving the numerology. You can go and find and search by your own. That's I'm here just only planting the seeds and wake much more souls as I can. Today I've got a beautiful guest, the beautiful soul, beautiful awakened soul. Since she told me she was awakened since she's born, probably, but she wasn't aware because she was small. But anyway, her name is Alicia. So I would like to give her a time to introduce herself. And yeah, welcome. Welcome to my podcast. And thank you for accepting my invitation today.
It's okay. Thank you for having me. And again, I'm sorry. I know it's not just my fault. The energies have been kind of everywhere. Um, but I'm sorry it's taken a little while.
No
Um,
worries.
I guess I'm just here to kind of talk about my experiences on this journey, and maybe I can say something that might resonate with someone and just make some gears start turning and get things moving a little bit more, because I think there's a lot of people out there at the moment who are still really scared of taking this first step into their life journey, into taking responsibility and reclaiming their sovereignty, whatever term you have for it, whatever you want to say. Everyone does it on a different level, and everyone has different awareness of what they're doing when they're doing it. So, for the moment, I guess what I want to talk about is this kind of gap that's been created through the Great Awakening that's going on. Those who are reincarnated souls, those who are old souls, the star seeds, the awakened ones, the 144, again, whatever term you want to call it, those who are
Yeah.
already there, who already have the ingredients, we're all where we should be right now. It doesn't matter how far along you are in your journey, we are where we need to be.
Yeah.
But there's this completely other side, there's this completely other world, there's this completely other half of it that we tend to not look at so much for our own reasons. Um, that is struggling to make this big leap. And the more we grow, the bigger the distance is. And the bigger the distance is, the harder it is for those on the other side to make their way forward and move. Um, the way that I see it, and some of the messages that I've been getting come across, is that So darkness as a concept doesn't like to move. Darkness is dense and is heavy. In order to move or change, grow, or evolve, it takes a lot more energy than it does if you are light. So when you are very much in that darkness and very much in that density, you get comfortable, you get stagnant, you stop moving, you enjoy the cycles, you enjoy the karma, whatever term works for you, whatever you want to say. It becomes, and then this is when it becomes this ego, this sickness, this all these different words for it. The fact of the matter is, it's nature. It is natural. It is the laws of the realm that we live in. Darkness doesn't like to move, light does. When we are transmuting darkness into light, the ingredients that we have as our individual expressions. So that's what I like to call a physical vessel, whatever, like whether it's a human, whether it's a starseed, Pleiadian, angel, fairy, these are all just different expressions of energy in a physical form.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
When you have your energy, when you have these polarities inside of you, you have positive and negative, masculine and feminine, you have all of these different sides and experiences of yourself. When you are closed off to them and you reject certain aspects of them because of your environment and your social conditioning and also your spiritual stuff as well, your karmic cycles, your past lives, your journeys that you've had on that side, all of these different things kind of incorporate into a lot of the term that I got was filtered resonance. So filtered resonance can manifest itself as a sickness, as a blockage, as a repression, as a rejection, as a separation. And all it is in this net that we have, this energetic net that connects all beings, we can only pick out the information that resonates. And when it resonates, what it means is that aligns with the experiences that you've had and what your knowledge is at the moment. It's the same way that these beings will present themselves to us in ways that we can comprehend and we can understand. So the same energy can be completely differently interpreted by two different people who have had two different experiences and have two different perceptions, even though the energy and the principle is the same thing that they're looking at. The takeaway is completely different. So when we have these different experiences and we're teaching from this place of our own experience, we then end up separating, not meaning to, but we end up rejecting and separating even more these people who haven't had the same ones, who can't relate to it. And then they're going to say, okay, well, none of this is true because I don't understand that. I don't relate to that. I'm not a Gemini because I don't think that I'm my sun's sign. Whatever it is that these people do to further separate themselves from what is the truth, we give them every reason to do that when we preach instead of teach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I would actually stop you here because on Sunday I went to the event. That was a spiritual event, and that was a kind of the spiritual fair. So where there are lots of spiritual people gathering, a lot of psychic, the people reading the cards, tarot, the medium, and that kind of that was going on. And I went there as well because I was promoting my book, Mind, Body, Spirit, my healing book as well, and also offering my knowledge and my information, my wisdom to others. And I had that experience as well. I was aware of that because now I know. I'm sensing when that was the people passing by. I don't know how you perceive that stuff. Sometimes the people passing by and they sense unconsciously, not consciously, unconsciously your vibration, your energy, and they really scared because I love that concept you said about the darkness, because you're shining with your light, with your energy, you're beaming on their shadow, like, oh God. And they are just saying, oh, I'm not coming close to that person. I'm not coming close to that soul because then I will be oh God, all my shadows, they will
No,
just
they're
only,
gonna have to move. Something's gonna
yeah,
be triggered, something's gonna come up that's gonna get them moving again, and they don't want to. And
yeah,
that's what
that's right.
fear is. It
Yeah,
is
so
this,
keep carry on. Yeah,
yeah, so it is this fear and this anxiety of change, which when you say
yeah,
it like that very simply, people start to feel a bit silly about it because they're like, well, I don't mind change. I've not got a problem with change because this is when it comes down to human psychology and the ways that our brains function for our own survival. So, we have this thing called the limbic system inside of our brain, which
yeah,
has been referenced to be the reptilian brain. Now, some of the information that I received through my contacts and when all of this stuff was happening to me
yeah,
um, is that the limbic system or the reptilian brain is
yeah,
something every single human being has.
yeah,
And it is our core. It is our survival, and it's essentially our darkness, literally there living inside of our brain.
yeah.
It's
It's
our
true.
ego self, it's where we separate, it's the density, but it's there for a reason. It's there because when we first evolved, when we first had awareness from the very first level of consciousness, from that
Yeah,
first, oh, I am, oh, I need to survive. So that's that first layer, that's that first level that breeds the corruption, it breeds darkness, consumption,
yeah,
all of
yeah,
these. But if you don't grow, if you don't change, you never move out of that space. It looks
yeah,
different, whether it's through capitalism, the destruction of the planet, whether it's having toxic relationships. That part of your brain is still there and it works on cycles, it works on patterns, and it works on keeping you trapped in a certain place, in a certain way of thinking, in a certain environment because that's just the way it works. The brain is essentially a computer, and that is what it has been coded to do. That is what protects us. When you realize that you don't need to be in survival mode anymore, that
no,
we're not living in this, crazy era where we need to survive. We have more consciousness than that. We have more understanding than that. It
yeah.
doesn't need to look different anymore. We can begin to change and grow. And that's the natural process of things. That's the way that it should be. I can't talk too much about the other stuff because the information that I received doesn't resonate necessarily with what a lot of people talk about. And so I'm nervous about saying that out loud a little bit myself still. But the
That's
main
why
thing,
that's why we need to speak our truth. Doesn't matter how it
yeah.
looks like. So that was the same yesterday. I was recording my Instagram video. I was crying. I was like, oh my goodness, that was a lot of emotion. You need to go and have a look on my Instagram. Like yesterday video, I was like, so, oh my goodness, I'm just showing myself really vulnerable. So you need to show, say what you need to really would like to say it.
Well, there's a few reasons. Well, I mean, I'm always thinking. That's the first thing. I'm always
Oh,
thinking.
oh, that's your reptilian brain. Just
Yeah, exactly, exactly. All right, so get
remove
out
it.
of survival mode.
Yes.
Um, a lot of the information that I get is that everything that is happening on planet Earth at the moment, everything that has happened, all of these prophecies, everything that everyone's saying on some level is true, depending on what they've seen and what they've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
What I have seen and what I have experienced is that whatever density, whatever darkness exists on this plane, exists on this earth, exists within inside of ourselves,
Yes.
is not separate. It is part of us, and it is our responsibility, individually and collectively, to
Yes.
transmute this darkness into light, to grow,
Yeah.
and to evolve, and to
Agree.
return to the natural order of things. We do have a natural order. In spirituality, in science, we have natural law. We also have unnatural law or man-made law. Um, so these, again, they're not necessarily separate things. They're the same thing in different ways. But in natural law, we have progression, we have movement, we have evolution. So why is it in the past 300 years of humanity, we haven't really evolved? We haven't moved, we haven't changed, we've been doing the same thing in different ways. We've been
Yeah.
fighting.
Repetition.
It's been repeating itself. There's been no technological advancements necessarily, like apart from a new iPhone coming out, or there's just been little things here and there. But
Yeah,
overall,
I would like to only stop here because that little things, if someone's listening to us, that definitely is a one word, but that word is illusion. We've been trapped, we've been holded by fears all the time. So this
yeah.
is only one word. When you remove it, that illusion, you set yourself free. You'll be just only living in the natural law of the universe and the galaxy. So yeah, just keep.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's about moving away from everything unnatural and making
Yeah,
it natural. And this isn't to say that technology is a bad thing. This isn't to say advancement is a bad thing. This is to say that technology and advancement should be based on natural law,
yeah,
on natural energy, on respect, on knowledge and understanding, rather than everyone just running around like children doing things and expecting no consequences, which again is such a silly thing because anyone with a brain will tell you every action has a consequence. So why do
that's
people
true.
still act like their actions don't have consequences?
Yeah, yeah. But I would like to say that technology is amazing because now we connect each other, we can talk each other. That's amazing. But we need to use with our, I'm not saying the brain because that's my perspective. When we are saying something with the brain, it's not really working because the brain is just only action, is our yeah, that I would like to say is helping us to navigate this world. Anyway, and making the life is better. But definitely we need to listen ourselves, which what is good for us, what is not. That's the intuition, your heart, your knowing, that information that will be guided us. But you didn't say anything how you awake. You've been awake all the time in your life,
Oh,
or just only I would like to just only tell, just only give that tiny, tiny.
I don't know. It's hard to say really because I mean, it comes down to the matter of what is awake. I feel like there's been various points in my life where I've been very present, I've been very conscious. I mean, from the moment I came out of my mom,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
from the very beginning, I've always been very conscious. I've always been very aware. My struggles have been in my interactions with other people and how I present myself socially and how I connect with people. Because internally, and that's always caused me problems when I've had rejections from the outside, it's
Yeah.
caused me to have issues inside. And I've had to work on that and all of these different things. But I was, for a very long time, um, I struggled with my mental health, even as a kid. I remember being in primary school, so I must have been about 7, 8 years old, and I had suicidal tendencies. I used to want to kill myself as a 7-year-old kid. That's not, there's something strange there. There's something,
Okay.
so I always had this kind of a lot of density, a lot of darkness, a lot of heaviness inside of me. And a lot of this is because of the environment that I grew up in. There was a lot of ancestral trauma, there was a lot of environmental trauma, and there was a lot of things for me to take on. That's not to say that I wasn't brought up in a loving environment. I was just brought up in a very unhealthy environment where the love became toxic because it was never dealt with, it was never understood. It was kind of a shit show in a lot of
Yeah.
ways.
Okay.
Um, and so as I got older, you look into things like you start asking yourself questions, thinking, why am I doing these things? What's wrong with me? Why am I living my life this way?
Oh
I
yeah.
turned 16, 17, I was out doing drugs every night. I was out drinking every night. I could not sit by myself. And this was the biggest thing for me. I was so codependent. I couldn't be on my own. I had to be with friends or be with a partner or be with my family or be out on the street or go out clubbing or just, I couldn't sit still. And it's still something that I do struggle with a little bit, but
No one's perfect. That's
the,
imperfection, imperfection. So that's a human.
exactly, I
Welcome.
recognize it and I know the balance now and there's progress there.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing for me was that I was scared of being alone. I was scared of asking myself a lot of the questions that I needed to. I was in that darkness and I didn't want to
Mm,
move because it was so heavy, it was so dense, it
yeah.
becomes a comfort zone, but it's not comfortable. It's a double-edged sword in that kind of way because it's like a safety blanket. you know, when a kid has a safety blanket and it gets really dirty and really gross and it's falling
Yeah,
apart at the seams, but they're still using it and they won't let you wash it,
that's
even though
true.
it's gonna be getting them more sick. That's
Yeah,
literally what it's
that's
like.
totally true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to a place where my suffering, the density became too much, the darkness became too much, the suffering became too much. I
Yeah.
didn't have a choice anymore. It was pretty much I had to change or I was going to die. I was going to kill myself. It was either one. So my spirit made that decision for me. That wasn't a choice that I made consciously necessarily. If I
Yeah.
think I made it consciously, I would have gone the other way. But subconsciously, my spirit decided, no, we need to do something. We need
Looking
to
after.
change. So I started looking into mental health. I started looking into things like ADHD, autism, borderline personality disorder, which is what I ended up getting diagnosed with. But I've kind of, as my journey's gone on, I stepped away from pretty much all of those labels because all of it is the same thing. It's the
Yeah,
human being reacting naturally to a stressful environment. You change the environment, you adapt to the stress, and the brain will essentially correct itself or adapt or work differently. So
that's true.
I had to kind of do it the hard way. And this is, I think, where a lot of that density that's still not moving, that other side of the collective, I think it's probably the same case with them. That because they don't have that level of consciousness, the way that I didn't have that level of consciousness, they're going to be doing it the hard way. They're going to be moving slower. It's going to be uncomfortable. I think the way I said it the other day is, you know, when you watch a baby deer walk for the first time, it's
Yeah.
kind of uncomfortable. It's awkward. You're panicking. You're thinking they're going to fall and hurt themselves. You want to rush up and get involved, but it's actually quite beautiful. And when you step back, when you remember to be yourself, tap into that moment and focus on those things, you can actually appreciate the progress and the journey for what it is rather than seeing all the awkwardness, which is what you'd see otherwise, you know?
Yeah, I would like to add something because when you've been talking about this baby, I just only had in my vision, in my eyes, in my mind, in my third eye eyes, it was like the arms open, and we need to be a leader. I would like to much more leader, but leader close, walking side by side. No, I'm the leader above. No, I'm the leader below. I just only walking and holding the hands, or just only being the one step ahead, but just giving that encouragement and giving that support. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. Oh, that's the
Exactly.
goosebumps everywhere. But I know what you mean. So that's why the people so strong holding on that beliefs, like all that attachment, that trauma, that's mine. I don't want to let it go because I'm so afraid to step into the new. The new actually is beautiful. It's painful.
They
I
just
can.
can't see it
That's
yet.
true. But
That's why it's about having patience and making that space.
yeah, and also I would like to add this because today is number 26, and also that angel saying, "Be strong, believe in me, trust in me, because when you fall over, I will be there, lift you up, and just encourage you." That's an amazing synchronicity. But always my podcast is like coming to the, yeah, beautifully. Yeah. So what you can tell the people if they are feeling like that kind of the things where they couldn't, or maybe you've got the experience and you would like to share, what helped you a lot to lifting up yourself from the floor? That's a quote, that's a metaphor, and just go
So
forward.
there was a few things for this, and
Okay.
because again, like this is one thing that I'm quite lucky in, where I've always been conscious. I've always been very aware of my darkness and very aware of the light side.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was going through my therapy and my self-help journey, learning about myself, all of these things, there were a few things that I found really, really worked for me that I recommend to anyone who can possibly try and possibly have access to. So number one, nature.
Nature.
Nature. Nature is literally our gift from the angelic realms. It's the gift from ourselves. It's the gift from the earth. Nature is there to use as a healing tool. It's also there to use to remind you of your inner child. It's there to help you just be, to relax, to get into a meditative state. You know, people who aren't spiritual go on walks in nature. People who aren't spiritual have pictures of mountains on their phone. Everyone is attracted to nature on some level. Everyone feels drawn to it on some level. So just fucking embrace it. Don't care about what people think about you. Just go and sit in a tree. I think I probably spent about a year spending every day of my life in my local little woods, sitting in trees, eating little picnics, making my life very, very, very simple. I was lucky enough to do that because I am in a situation where I wasn't having to worry about paying rent and I could stop working for a little bit to think about myself and work on myself and have this journey. But everyone can do it in their own way, even if it's a little park around the corner from your house, even if
Yeah.
it's a little field somewhere, even if it's having a little potted plant in your house for you to take care of. Have something that you can connect with, something that you can trust and grow. And the way that I do it is I see my house plants as a representation of me. So when they're falling apart, when they're dying a little bit, I give them a little bit more extra care, and then I give myself a little bit more extra care. And I found that when they're growing really well, I'm growing really well. And so when I'm not able to regulate myself, I can look at these things outside of myself to get these sort of reminders.
Yes, beautifully. Oh, well, goodness, that's the people need to hear that stuff, definitely, because we are just only cut out. I'm just only saying, oh, what, how I can see if the angel is talking to me, how I can see if the spirit guide is talking to me, how I can find it. We need to open our eyes and we need to open, I would like to open our heart, definitely, but we need to clear it up our hearing, definitely. Just go inside and just, like you said, go and hug the tree or sit down on the tree, but ask the permission if you would like to sit down on the tree because that's a consciousness. So
Oh, yeah, of course.
oh, just get out.
If that's okay first.
Yeah, if that's okay, can I? That's it. Yeah,
They're normally all right with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
The
And what
so
else helped you?
mhm.
And what else? Because you just only said nature, and also
Oh,
you said that you went you saw the well, you've been into therapy and you learned a lot of tools. Is anything else you would like to share with us?
so nature was probably the biggest one.
Okay.
But just any opportunity you really have to spend time with yourself, and every opportunity you have to do something that makes you uncomfortable. Because really, if you're in the darker, deepest density, in order to change, you're going to have to make the tiniest little baby steps. Because when you're that heavy, when you're that dense, when you're that much in the darkness, if you try and do a leap, you're going to fall apart and you're never
That's
going to want to
yeah,
leap again. You're going to traumatize yourself from leaping. So you need to take tiny little baby steps to shuffle your way through the darkness and release some of the density and get a little bit lighter day by day, step by step. So you need to be really, really patient with yourself. And yet, just spend as much time with yourself as you possibly can and ask yourself really difficult questions. You don't always need to know the answers, you don't always need to have them, but if you're not even asking a question in the first place, you're not going to get anywhere, you're not going to learn anything. So it's important that you're able to spend time with yourself and ask yourself, what am I scared of? Am I scared of death? Why am I scared of death? What's so scary about death? I'm scared of being alone. Well, why am I scared of being alone? What's scary
yeah,
about being alone? Going on this little, people will call it spiraling. People say that you're living in your head and you need to get out and all of these things. But realistically, that is doing the work. For me, that was doing the work. I had to think because when I'd been living in this dissociative state for the majority of my life, where all of this trauma and suffering and densities going on
hmm,
around me, I didn't want to be in tune with it. You know, as a kid, that's going to rip you apart from the insides. It's not what you need. And so I learned to dissociate very early. And again, my survival brain kept that as a pattern
yeah,
throughout my adulthood, and I dissociated it everywhere. So in order to break one little pattern, I just broke another one. I started taking cold showers. I started hearing about the Wim Hof method and all of these different things. And so
yeah,
I kind of just I put two and two together. Okay, so the brain works on patterns. you can break a pattern. If I can
Yeah.
break a pattern here, can I break a pattern here? Okay, so I'm going to take a cold shower. I hate the cold. I still hate the cold. But every now and then, I will make myself have a cold shower. I did that for like 2 months, just having a cold shower. Next thing I know, oh, so I had agoraphobia. I forgot to say that. It's a fear of going outside. I couldn't leave my house for a while. Um, I would
Okay.
kind of just have a panic attack anytime I'd be in a public space.
Oh, okay. I know what you mean. Yeah.
Just like a lot of anxiety, really
Yeah.
overwhelming. I just couldn't function. So for
Yeah,
like
they
a year, hmm?
yeah, they call it social phobia or something like that. Social
Yeah,
something like that. But
just
anyway, that's it. Lots
fear
of
of
neighbors.
people, really. And I just yeah, I shut myself off. I was miserable. But after 6 months of taking cold showers, eating healthy food, and doing a lot of shit that I didn't want to do, I started to feel better. Surprisingly,
Good.
when I did all the stuff that people told me I should do that I ignored, I started to feel better in myself and I started to grow and I could go outside and I can change. And the next thing I know, I'm here talking to you, doing an interview when I couldn't even leave my house 2 years ago. You know,
Amazing.
it can happen, it's possible. It just takes dedication and it takes you really having to be honest with yourself and really
Yeah.
having to dig deep and do so many things that you don't want to do. I think that's the biggest thing that stops a lot of people,
Yeah.
which is when you say it out loud like that, you know, that you're essentially inhibiting your own growth, you're ruining your own life and destroying your own self because you don't want to. That's what children do. That's what a child says. And that's why when you are in that consciousness, you have the consciousness of a child. So it doesn't matter if you're 40, 50 years old, you can mentally still be a child. And that's not a mental health condition. That's not because of trauma. That's because of someone refusing to change. And it happens everywhere. I
Amazing.
see it in a lot of adults, you know?
Yeah, that was amazing. You said I didn't actually. What I'm just only experiencing every time now when I'm interviewing the people, I'm just only saying sending the question telepathically, and I'm using my telepathy, and I don't have to actually ask the question. You're answering straight away. So thank you so much for that question and for the answer. That's amazing. You mentioned something about the inner child. Yeah, we've got the inner child. Yeah, that's why we need to listen our pattern when we are saying the word and how we can say the word and how we respond. Because when we've got a reaction about something, that's definitely something inside us. We need to look after. We need to dig in and dive in and deeply, deeply, deeply. But also, you beautifully said about the flowers. I love that concept. I love that analogy. I love that consciousness and by your perspective, your lens, everything what you would like to, excuse me, say. Because the people are dividing now. That's why I would like to, I'm sensing that's bridging because we living in the duality. We're just only saying you're good, you're bad. I'm not generalizing. I don't like to, too much generalizing the population, the consciousness, collective consciousness. But this is the world we are living. We would like to. That's why I dedicate my podcast. Is only awake, much more people, much more soul, much more starseeds, or whatever they're calling light workers and the old souls, to show them they are not alone. They've got a support. They've got the encouragement, and etc. etc. But anyway, my point is, what you've got in, you've got out. So it's not a separation. The body is like I'm just calling that a spacesuit. That's a dress. Probably you agree with me as well. So it's nothing separate us from outside, to be honest. I
Exactly.
I had a beautiful dream. I couldn't remember when. That was my dream. But when we are dreaming, we are experiencing as well. We're living in the different dimension. And that dream, I was able to take my hands and put through the wall. Oh, that was amazing. I was amazing feeling. Even now, I'm just only finding myself. That was amazing. But then I wake up in the morning and I went again to the kitchen because that happened in my dream in the kitchen. I couldn't do that. I said, oh God, I came back again here. I would like to go back to my dream. So everything is possible. Yeah.
It is, it's just a matter of waiting. sometimes for that natural timing to come in, you know? So we have our time, we have our ego selves, we have everything that we do, the I
Yeah.
want, the I need, the I am. And then we've also got our natural timing, our higher selves, the angels, the universe, and our little
Yeah.
reminders. So we remind ourselves and we have outside reminders. These things are all one, but the more you raise your consciousness, the more you learn to connect and accept, the clearer these become and the clearer that becomes.
Thank
Right?
you. You're just hearing my words beautifully. Yeah. Clear your vision and clear that all the baggages or that unwanted dense energy from inside you. Yeah, then you can see and you can hear more, definitely. You can feel more. That's why it's a mastering the emotion. And how about the emotion? What would you like to say a little bit about the emotion? How do people or souls, starseeds can master the emotions?
Stop trying to.
Oh, okay.
That's the biggest thing that I can say. Well, at least from my perspective and my experience, and I can't say that this is going to work for everyone, but if
Mm-hmm.
you are like me and you're crazy or you're, you know, BPD or autistic or ADHD, whatever label society has given you, there is nothing wrong with you. Like I said, the human brain has natural reactions to a stressful environment. A stressful environment can be external or internal. If you de-stress the environment, if you make things a little bit simpler and you get everything regulated, you will find that even though you still experience these different emotions, and this is a big red flag. If anyone who is spiritual says that they don't experience anger or hatred or fear,
Oh,
that for me is a big red flag
yeah, it
because
is. It is.
you should experience those things. These are emotions, are energy in motion. They are just forms of energy that are there to teach us something, whether it's to teach us to dance or whether it's to
Yeah.
teach us to trust people, whether it's to teach us to love, whether it's to teach us to grow, whether it's to teach us to be on our own or connect. It's always there. It's always teaching us something different depending on what we need. If you aren't experiencing those emotions, you've separated yourself from them. You've disembodied yourself, or fragmented yourself,
Yeah.
and you're blocking this connection. You're blocking your clear vision. You're blocking your perception. You're
Yeah,
blocking your
definitely.
ability to connect. So it's really important that you just accept whatever emotions you have to feel without attaching identity onto them. So instead of saying, I am sad, because the brain will then say, well, I am a sad person, the brain will then begin to act and create
Yeah,
this
follow that.
reality.
Yeah, of course.
Exactly. If you say, I am a person experiencing sadness, it's the same thing, but you've now detached from your identity.
Yeah,
You've
that's
now
true.
let the energy, the emotion, process, experience, go through you and release to then go back to being you. Rather than embodying and taking on every bit of energy that comes your way, just take on what works for you. I am feeling happy. I am feeling sad. Not I am happy, I am sad. This is who I am as a person. Because when you attach your identity to it, you're attaching your ego to it. And when you're attaching your ego to it, you're not experiencing it necessarily objectively,
Yeah.
subjectively. You're experiencing it as a way that's going to be fuel for something unnatural rather than something natural. So
Yeah.
it's either going to push you further into this stagnation, further into density, further into this cycle, or it's going to help you break it, release it, move, create, and be free. It's the same emotion. What matters is what you're doing with that emotion, whether you're smoking it away, drinking it away, not talking to people about it, or even going out and say you're angry, you go and get in a fight. That's not really dealing with the emotion. You've just
No,
expressed it.
no,
Like,
no, because you just only projecting then your emotion on somebody else. That's making even worse, I would like to say, because you're harming yourself and you're
exactly.
adding the karma and you're adding another emotion, yeah, projecting for the other person. So definitely like that. Yeah. So that's beautifully you
So
said,
just
that's emotion.
process it, just feel it, let
Yeah.
yourself be angry and don't feel bad about it. The amount of times I cried so much in my life. I have screamed, I have cried, I have yelled, I have hurt myself, I have shouted, I've pushed people, I've been a child for the majority of my life. My emotional regulation has not been okay, and I've accidentally hurt a lot of people, not meaning to, but
Yeah, unconsciously, yeah. Because you'd be
without
screaming inside you, like saying, can you help me? Can you help me? And you didn't know where's that help, yeah, come from.
exactly. And we all do that. We all experience that in some, we are